Welcome to Chemistry Connect. Isaac Nyirimbibi is the one taking us through the end of year 2024 assessment, Senior 3 Chemistry, Paper 1 Theory. So a standard paper for Paper 1, it takes 2 hours, and we are going to go through its scoring guide as we see how best we could have approached the items to this paper. In this session, we are just looking at section A, and in our next session, we shall be looking at solution to section B. Now, let's look at section A, item number 1. Please, those who are noting down, don't forget to keep on pausing. You write down the question, and then you go ahead. So the scenario goes for item number 1, section A, that Timothy owns a laundry shop in Busia border town. Being a new person in the area, he sent one of the water sellers to collect for him water for use. While cleaning some of his clients' white clothes using the available detergent, he realized that some brown spots remained on them, yet he had rinsed it severely. This has left Timothy wondering and has approached you for some pieces of advice. Task. As a chemistry learner, explain to Timothy the mistake he made when choosing the product. So seeing in this scenario, we analyze the scenario. What is the problem? The problem of Timothy is that when he got the water, he collected the water, and when he was cleaning clients' clothes, you see that the clothes had some brown spots. The brown spots remained, and yet he had rinsed it several times. So he's wondering what is happening. He has rinsed, but it has remained. So what is the problem? So the question is, explain to Timothy the mistake he made when choosing the product. One thing we know about the water which can bring about the brown spots, that could be hard water, because hard water with soap, the bar soap, it will form the brown, it will leave these brown spots. So now, which means there must be a problem that he made in choosing the detergent that he used. That's what we want. That's what a learner was required to find where the problem was. So the solution to part A, here we say that Timothy used a soapy detergent, or someone can say Timothy used soap detergent, that is to say White Star bar soap, instead of soapless detergent. So there is a score here. He used a soapy detergent. In section A, item 1, what we're looking for is someone able to categorize this product being used. So here we have been able to categorize, and there is a score. And he has been able to give even some example. So it's good when you give some example of that category, which is very good. But majorly, what you are looking for here is categorizing that given product. So the product, when you use soap detergent on hard water, it will leave some brown soap. But if you had used soapless detergent, that problem couldn't have resulted at the end. Good. Now let's look at part B. Part B, they're saying, as a chemistry learner, guide Timothy to understand how the product works. You call the soap detergent and soapless detergent, they all have the same way they work. And what they want us to talk about here is the cleansing action of soap. So when we are talking about cleansing action of soap, what is it that we talk about majorly? The parts that we talk about the structure of soap, and we know that the soap molecule has two parts, the hydrophobic and the hydrophilic part. That is a major thing that we need to talk about. Now, what happens So during washing, soap acts by lowering, very good point, lowering the surface tension between water and oil or grease material. Please, whenever you talk about oil and grease, this is the dirt. This is the dirt. And also emulsifies them. The hydrocarbon tail becomes attached to the dirt. So the hydrocarbon tail, we are meaning the hydrophobic part. It is attached to the dirt, while the polar head is the hydrophilic part, which dissolves in water. Then we continue. With constant agitation, the dirt is pulled off. So here we see how the dirt is pulled off the cloth and gets dispersed in water as tiny droplets, which are then powdered away. The cloth is then rinsed several times and dried. So that is how we can approach. This is the cleansing action of soap, and you'll be able to get all the scores. Then part C is saying, advise Timothy on the challenges associated with long-term use of the product. So long-term use of the product, which product? This soapy detergent. So the long-term use, the challenges, they want us to talk about the impact, the negative impact that can bring about in long run. But as we talk about the impact, we also talk about its effect, and finally talk about its mitigation. So now let's look at this. Soapy detergent contains some chemicals which cause skin burns. You see, this is the effect. And this one brings about pain or cancer. This can be mitigated through thoroughly washing the affected area. So you get all your 3 scores. Don't just talk about bringing about burns and you stop there. Then what? It can bring burns and so what? Therefore, it brings burns or irritations, hence pain or cancer. Then you talk about how this can be mitigated. Okay, so that is item number 1. Let's look at item number 2. Now, this item number 2 is actually the number which was done by these at UNEB. It's a number for UNEB for item number 2 still. And these, my students also were able to test one of the questions for UNEB. Now, if you're there and you're a student, how do you find this question? You can first read it, put it down, try it out from wherever you are, and then you test yourself. If you are the one in this paper, could you have passed it very well? If you're the one in that UNEB paper, could you have gotten all the answers? So let's go through it and we see how we could go about it. The scenario goes, an industry wanted to produce lime for treatment of acid soils. The production of lime involves heating limestone strongly, which results into its decomposition according to equation. So we have calcium carbonate decomposing to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide gas. So we have, these are the products which are produced. So the industry is also interested to know how much gas is evolved, to know how much. So this is something important, to know how much gas is evolved during the process, since the gas is useful. Before the production, an experiment was performed where 25 grams of limestone were heated until there was no further change. You have been contacted for help. Task. As a learner of chemistry, explain the categories of products. Explain the categories. Now English here should also work. They're saying categories of products, which means how many products do you have? We said we have 2 products. We have the calcium oxide and the carbon dioxide gas. And what they want us to do is to categorize the products. So here in our solution, here we come and say that products are, number 1, the calcium oxide. We already saw up there the calcium oxide. So we want to categorize. But don't forget that in this number 2, look at CRE. We consider the CRE. Do you still recall what CRE means? Not Christian religious educations, of course. We are saying you categorize the product, you give the reason, and you give the example. Now, in this case, we already have the example we are talking about is calcium oxide. So our work is to categorize it and we give the reason. So calcium oxide is a basic oxide that is category because it reacts with water to form alkaline solution. This is the reason. So this is the reason. But now another person could say calcium oxide is an ionic compound. And that is another way. Please don't put all the two answers. This is for our discussion. We are discussing. Ionic compound because it is formed between a metal, that is calcium, and a non-metal. I believe you recall very well that compounds formed between bonds formed between a metal and a non-metal, sharing of those electrons between a metal and non-metal, that's what we call an ionic compound. And an ionic compound, there is transfer of electron from a metal to a non-metal. So that's why we can ably say that this is an ionic compound. So this is also another way someone could give this, and this is the reason. Then another product was carbon dioxide gas, and also it has two ways. Number one, you can categorize it as an acidic oxide. Why? This is the category because it reacts with water to form carbonic acid. Good. So those we believe that acidic oxides, when they dissolve in water, they will form that acidic solution. And we see carbon dioxide, when it dissolves in water, it forms carbonic acid. Therefore, we can ably say that carbon dioxide is an acidic oxide. Or another person can say carbon dioxide is a covalent compound. Why? Because it involves sharing. Very good. It involves sharing electrons between non-metals, that is the carbon and oxygen. All these are non-metals and the sharing, and where we said that sharing of electrons between non-metals, they form a covalent bond, and the compound formed is what you call a covalent compound. So there you'll be able to get all your scores. Then part B, suggest the properties of gaseous product that make it useful in daily life. Now that is where English also has to apply. Look at this gaseous product. How many products do we have? 2. Carbon dioxide and calcium oxide. But now this time round they are talking about suggest the properties of gaseous product. So which means they want us to talk about properties of carbon dioxide gas. So which means we need to give those properties of carbon dioxide gas that make it useful in daily life. Let's look at number 1. Carbon dioxide is colorless. Good. That is the first property. Colorless and odorless. That's ideal for use in food and beverages. That is number 1. Number 2, it is non-flammable. That's used in fire extinguishers. Number 3, it is soluble in water. That's useful in maintaining pH balance. Number 4, it reacts with bases and metals. That's suitable for photosynthesis. Because it is able to react with this, that's why it can be used for photosynthesis as they dissolve in water, in the soil. The last point, absence of toxicity. That's used in controlled environments like greenhouse to encourage plant growth. But as we said, on this part, we need at least 4 properties. So even if you give only 4 properties of carbon dioxide, you maximize all the scores. But for the case of division, have given us more than 4, around 5 of them for the case of revision. Look at part C. Part C is saying calculate the volume of gaseous product measured at STP that was formed. The volume of gaseous product measured at STP that was formed. Don't forget there is information that was given to us in the question. That's why they say that they use 25 grams of calcium carbonate. It's one which was decomposed. Then there's something they gave us also. They gave us molar masses of each of these elements. Another thing they gave us is what 1 mole of a gas occupies at STP. So all that information given to us, we are going to use it here. So what did I do? The first thing I did was to repeat the equation. This equation is already given to us up there. It is given to us. So calcium carbonate decomposes to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide gas. So our first thing, we can first get the RFM, relative formula mass of calcium carbonate. And we say 1 times 40. Why 1? We have 1 calcium atom. So 1 times 40, which is the molar mass of calcium, plus 1 atom of carbon times 12, which is its molar mass, plus 3. We have 3 atoms of oxygen. And each atom of oxygen has a molar mass of 16. So that's why we have 3 times 16. So we get 40 plus 12 plus 48. And finally, we get 100. So that is our RFM. Now, we can interpret this equation. This should be a balanced equation. Please, whenever you find that the equation is not balanced, first do balancing. So you first balance the equation. But this equation of ours, very well balanced. The number of atoms on the left-hand side are equal to the number of atoms on the right-hand side. So we can interpret it in terms of moles, but depending on what we want, because we are looking for carbon dioxide gas produced, and we are seeing that 1 mole of calcium, coefficient of this compound, calcium carbonate, its coefficient is 1. So we are saying 1 mole of calcium carbonate, it is here, decomposes to produce 1 mole of carbon dioxide gas. So this here you get a score. You have been able to interpret. Now here we are saying now this is something they have given us. Since 1 mole of calcium carbonate weighs, we have already calculated its molar mass. It weighs 100 grams, and in brackets I put its molar mass. Its molar mass is equivalent to its RFM. I believe you know that. Then 1 mole of carbon dioxide occupies this. I believe we said we have this on our first page, on cover page, but also they gave it to us inside there on the question. But it is on the cover page. You can check there. So 1 mole of carbon dioxide occupies 22.4 decimeter cubed. So which means we can every substitute for 1 mole here. We can every substitute for 1 mole here. So that's why we say that this implies that 100 grams of calcium carbonate decomposes to produce 22.4 decimeter cubed of carbon dioxide. Good. Then, if 100 grams decomposes to produce that, what about 1 gram? Which means we divide by 100 both sides. So here remains 1 gram of calcium carbonate decomposes to produce 22.4 over 100 decimeter cubed of carbon dioxide gas. That is good. We continue. What about the 25 grams? This was given in the scenario. 25 grams of calcium carbonate decomposes to produce 22.4 over 100 times 25 decimeter cubed of carbon dioxide gas. And finally, we get our answer as 5.4 decimeter cubed of carbon dioxide. It's good to conclude and you say, therefore, the volume of gaseous product measured at STP is 5.6 decimeter cubed. And you get all your scores. finally, let's look at this last question, which is part D. So, part D says, explain the impact of one of the products on the environment. So you have two products, that is carbon dioxide and the calcium oxide, which means you can choose any of the two, because the question is saying explain the impact of one of the products. If it is carbon dioxide, talk about carbon dioxide. If it is calcium oxide, you talk about calcium oxide. So for me, in this case, I talked about carbon dioxide gas. For you, can talk about calcium oxide. It's dangerous. But I said, as you look at the dangers, don't forget to look at its effect, its impact, and then how it can be mitigated. Because we're looking at someone who is a problem solver. It's problem solver. So let's look at this. Saying carbon dioxide released traps heat in the atmosphere, causing the Earth's temperature to rise, leading to global warming. So it traps the heat, which leads to global warming. This can be mitigated by capturing carbon dioxide released and storing it underground to prevent it from entering the atmosphere. And you get all your scores. Only one point, very well explained, and you get all your scores. So don't forget that we need to enjoy the beauty. Chemistry is all around us, so let's keep on enjoying the beauty of chemistry. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we share to our friends. If you have not subscribed and you're watching this, please support us by subscribing, and you share to your friends that they can also keep learning from what we are learning also. If you have any comment, you have any query on any item, please share with me on WhatsApp or share with me on YouTube. We shall be able to interact. Otherwise, God bless.